For years, we've heard about this, right? AI designing new medicines. It always felt like something out of a sci-fi movie. Well, that moment is here. The hype is finally meeting reality, with real people in the real world. And it all boils down to one thing: the clinical trial.
So to really get this, we have to start with a truly devastating disease. It's called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, IPF for short. And it's just brutal. It scars your lungs, and bit by bit, it makes it harder and harder to just breathe. For most people who get this diagnosis, there's just not a lot of hope and not a lot of options.
So that brings us to the big question, the one that everyone, scientists, doctors, investors, is asking. Could an AI, a piece of software, actually do what decades of human research couldn't? Could it really build a brand new drug from the ground up?
Well, in 2024, we got our first real hint of an answer. A sign that all this hype might actually be real. And it all came from one single, potentially game-changing drug.
Okay, let's get into it. The drug is called Rentosertib. And you gotta understand, its story isn't just about a single medicine. No, this is bigger. This is the first major test case for this whole new world of AI-driven drug discovery.
So what's the big deal with Rentosertib? Well, it's not like an AI just took an old drug and tweaked it. No way. The AI platform here did two things that are just mind-blowing. First, it found a brand new culprit in the body to go after for this disease, a protein called TNIK that nobody was really looking at for fibrosis. And then its generative AI literally dreamed up from scratch a new molecule designed to hit that exact target. That's end-to-end AI.
And the results? Honestly, they were stunning. So in the trial, they're looking at lung function, and the people who got the placebo, well, their lungs got worse, which is sadly what you'd expect. But the people who got Rentosertib, they didn't just stop getting worse. Their lung function actually got better. We're talking an average improvement of over 98 milliliters. That's huge. And look at this. The chart just says it all. You can see the placebo bar heading south. That's the disease winning. And then look at the Rentosertib bar. It's not just holding the line, it's pushing up. It's reversing the damage. This is exactly the kind of clear, beautiful signal that scientists hope for, but rarely get.
And the really important part here is that this wasn't just random luck. The numbers are solid, they're statistically significant. And because of that, Rentosertib is now heading for the big leagues, the final, most difficult, and most expensive test, a massive global phase 3 trial set for 2025.
Okay, so Rentosertib shows that this can work. It's a proof of concept. But how do you do this at scale? How do you turn this into a repeatable process? For that, we need to peek behind the curtain at what you might call an AI drug factory, like the one being run by a company called Recursion. The way Recursion does it, it's not about finding one magical algorithm. It's all about building this incredible feedback loop. Think of it like this. You have robots doing millions of tiny experiments on cells every single week. This creates a tsunami of data. The AI then sifts through all that data, looking for patterns humans could never see, and comes up with ideas for new drugs. Then, and this is the key, they test those ideas right away in the lab, which creates even more data, making the AI even smarter for the next round. It's a cycle that just keeps getting better.
And it's not just one type of AI doing all the work. They've got a whole toolkit. They use deep learning, kind of like the system's eyes, to analyze all those images of cells. They use generative AI, that's the chemist that designs the new drugs. They've got other specialized AIs to figure out how molecules fit together in 3D, and even large language models to basically let scientists talk to this giant mountain of data and ask it questions. Just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, get a load of this number: 65 petabytes. That's how much data Recursion has generated themselves just to train their AIs. It's an absolutely staggering amount. And to crunch all those numbers, they had to build their own supercomputer, the BioHive 2, one of the most powerful in the entire industry. Okay, so the tech is working, the data is coming in. But here's the thing. When you start getting successful, you get noticed. And now the regulators are paying very close attention. The FDA is basically having to write a whole new rulebook just for drugs discovered by AI. And they're not wasting any time. They talked to the industry, held workshops, and then bam! In January 2025, they dropped their first ever official guidance on this stuff. This is a really, really big deal.
So what's in this new rulebook? Well, the core of it is something they're calling a credibility framework. Basically, the FDA is saying, look, It's not good enough to just show us your results anymore. Now you have to prove to us that the AI you use to get those results is reliable and trustworthy. Companies now have to submit these super detailed plans and reports on the AI itself, even before the big trials start.
And this boils down to 4 new major hurdles for these companies. First, no more secrets. They have to open up the black box and explain how their AI works. Second, they have to prove their data isn't biased. Third, they need a plan to keep an eye on the AI's performance for the long haul, even after a drug gets approved. And fourth, they have to start talking to the FDA way earlier in the process. It changes the whole game.
So you've got these new rules, plus a really tough market for raising money. It's forcing everyone in this space to play a high-stakes game of survival. And right now, it looks like there are 2 main strategies taking shape.
Okay, path number 1, get bigger. Consolidate. That's what you see with Recursion buying up its rival Exscientia. The idea is to take Recursion's massive biology data factory and bolt on Exscientia's world-class chemistry AI to create one giant superpower. Then you have path number 2, team up, partner. That's the benevolent AI playbook. They're striking these huge deals with big pharma companies like Merck to prove their tech works and get paid while they do it.
And when we say get bigger, we mean it. The deal for Recursion to buy Exscientia was worth a whopping $688 million. That's not just a merger, that's creating an absolute giant in the industry.
But that partnership route, it can be just as lucrative. Take a look at benevolent AI's deal with Merck. We're talking a potential value of $594 million. So yeah, it definitely shows there's more than one way to win in this game.
So we've got the breakthrough science, the crazy powerful supercomputers, the billion-dollar deals, but at the end of the day, all of it, for the entire industry, comes down to defeating one final boss, the Phase 3 trial.
Insiders are starting to call this the Phase 3 gap. It's become the new valley of death for these companies. See, AI has proven it's amazing at finding promising drug ideas and getting them into early trials fast. But the final step, actually passing a huge, expensive Phase 3 trial, so far, nobody has done it. Not one. And we just got a really tough reminder of how brutal this final step is. There was this other AI-linked drug, PXT3300, that looks super promising for a rare disease. But in July 2025, it failed its Phase 3 trial. It's just a harsh reality check that even with all this amazing tech, the final hurdle is incredibly high.
And that brings us right back to our hero, Rentosertib. All the hype, all the promise, all the money, a lot of it is riding on this one drug. So the billion-dollar question for the entire industry is, will this be the one? Is Rentosertib the drug that finally beats the final boss? The answer to that question, well, it's probably going to define the next decade of medicine.